Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and the realities of your existence. The bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Please rise if you embody your spirit for the opening hymn.
Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge. My name is Nathan. I'm one of your ministers. I'm very, very pleased to welcome you today. Today, during middle hour, in room 5 is the parenting support group. In room 6 is Intro to Our Faith, Where Do We Come From? This is not just for visitors. Anyone who's interested in that is welcome in room 6. And room 7 is our Social Justice Committee. The only other things we have is, well, first, the board meeting has been postponed until the 30th, so just mark your calendars for that. After both services in the sanctuary, the strategic planning team is going to present some of their results of their progress of where they are. They have what they call a strategic framework. You'll hear all about it in the service. So that is after both services here. Online, folks, we're still working a way to get you the information, so just know that. And then the other is for Queer Fete. There's a few things. This is October 4th. It's a big deal music festival. We're trying to make a bigger deal here at the church. We have flyers. If you would like to take some and post them at restaurants or grocery stores or wherever it is you put flyers up to help advertise this, they will be at a table out there. You are welcome to take those flyers and post them. We are going to have a choir that will sing with the lead at the end of the performance with our lead act, Chris Matthews. There are 2 non-required rehearsals this and next Wednesday. So if you wanted to be a part of that, there's a little QR code that you can click to sign up for that. Online folks, it's in the emails, and I'm sure some are on the website too. And then we still need volunteers, so if you're available that day to do a whole variety of things, if you could consider signing up. And the last one is we are trying to get as broad a list of supporters as possible. So organizations and businesses that will support QueerFest, not necessarily financially, but so that we can have a big, long list of people and organizations who support this music festival happening. The team has reached out to every media publication source that publishes upcoming music events. Not one in Baton Rouge has agreed to advertise this event. One in New Orleans has. So any legwork on your part will really do us a lot of good. That is it. Glad you are together with us in church.
So the story this morning is the story of John Murray. John Murray was essentially the founder of Universalism in the United States. The story is a couple of centuries old, and when we tell the story, we very often focus on John Murray himself, the fact that he was raised Christian in a faith that scared him because he saw a beautiful world and people who loved each other and a loving God. But the faith that he was raised in taught him about a punishing God that would condemn people to hell. The fact that he lost in a tragic way, he lost his wife and daughter and was put in pauper's prison. And when he got out of pauper's prison, he said, I am never going to be a minister again. And that's the John Murray part of the story. He left England having converted to Universalism, but then being disappointed by a God who did not heal his wife and child, and disillusioned by a political system that put him in prison for being broke and not being able to pay his bills. He got on a ship and came to the United States, and the ship was stranded on an island off the coast of the US. And there's the piece of the story I want to pick up, because where he got stranded was on a shoreline owned by a man named Thomas Potter. Not a name we often tell, but Thomas Potter. Thomas Potter had a vision for churches in the United States. He didn't like the strict, there is a hell and God is damnation, didn't think that was right, but didn't have a preacher who might be able to fill a church. But stepping out in faith on his property, he built a little chapel. And that little chapel is in a place called Murray Grove, which is where we have a camp now. But that little chapel stood empty for quite a long time, until one day, John Murray showed up. His ship was stranded, the tide went out, he got off to come in to see if he could get food and water, and Thomas Potter said, well, the food, I'll give you fish for free because the ocean is full of fish, and I'll give you water, it comes from a well on my land, but what I really need is a preacher because I have this church that's empty. And John Murray said, well, I'm not a preacher. Thomas said, you sound like a preacher, because preachers do have a certain sound, don't they? And John Murray said, no. And Thomas Potter said, you really do sound like a preacher. And John Murray said, well, yes, but. And he told him the whole story about leaving a strict Christian faith, turning to Universalism, being disappointed by God, and coming to the United States for a new chance. And Thomas Potter said, I'd love to have you tell that story. John Murray said, well, if the ship goes, I can't do it. Thomas Potter said, tell you what, if you will stay as long as the wind doesn't take the ship away, if you're here on Sunday, the chapel will be open. Will you come and preach? And John Murray reluctantly agreed, but he did agree. And he came and preached that Sunday at that little chapel on the shoreline, and people came and listened to that message. And that is the story of the beginning of universalism in the United States, or one of the stories, because universalism grew up in different places, different times. But this is our story. And my question to you is, what would have happened if Thomas Potter had not stepped out in faith and built a chapel even when he didn't have a minister to fill it? And what would have happened if Thomas Potter had given up when it didn't look like there was anybody to preach in that chapel? Good questions, and I leave them for you to ponder.
Would you join me in this morning's prayer and reflection? That Spirit that holds so many and can hold more. The God that we know when we see hope and kindness and justice. Whatever it is that keeps you going, please be present with us on this day. And help us to hold faith and to hold out hope for a world that does not feel like it is precariously on the edge. Help us to hold out hope for a way that xenophobia and transphobia and misogyny and racism are relics of the past. Help us to make space in our hearts and our homes for those who are feeling at risk in the world today. If you are looking for sobriety, may you find it. If you are looking for health, may you find it. If you are looking for comfort from your grief, may you find it. May you know the world is better because you are here. Amen. Today we have two announcements for the Stones. The first is for a member of this church. She's okay, but Sylvia Miller is in the hospital, and so we're sending a thinking of you card to her. And the other is a death of someone who is not a church member, but was affiliated and supportive of some of the stuff we did. This week we heard that Ward Riley died. He was, once again, not Unitarian Universalist, but when we did for quite a few years a vigil during the Iraq War, he was instrumental in being a part of that. And so I just wanted to name him today in this service. This ritual we have is open to everybody, visitor and member alike. We invite you to come forward either along the west or the east wall. Come forward online. Take a stone, let it represent whatever you're carrying, and place it into the symbol of our community. We invite those who wish to come forward as we place stones. And we say together, with hope to make this a better world, we light this flame. Its light is the symbol of the power of love.
From all that dwell below the sky,
I would like to tell you about a time I was complicit in a broccoli homicide. I'll say it again, broccoli murder. Okay? Last summer, I had just redone my front garden, and I had this idea that I wanted to put things that were pretty but also were food to kind of blend in the, like front landscaping. And I did all of the work of sort of uprooting some of the things I didn't like and putting down cardboard to kill out the weeds, and then a whole pile of the soil and compost you're supposed to do. And it was time for me to visualize my garden. I had sketched the whole thing out. I had intricate details of where I thought the sun would go and everything like that. And I went to the garden store and I told them my vision. And I asked the person there to walk me through and show me which plants would work best for this vision. One of the things the man there pointed out to me were two types of broccoli, one that will bloom after 45 days and one that will bloom after 90 days, something like that. They were like $3 each, so I bought a bunch and I plopped them down in the garden. I thought it'd be cool to have them like right in the front, be a little interesting, and then I could eat it at the end. And I would put the fast-blooming one in the front and the slow-blooming one in the back, and the idea is I would harvest as it kind of went forward. As the weeks became months, the front broccoli blocked out the sun from the back broccoli. The back broccoli did not like this, so it grew taller and thicker to try to get to the sun. Eventually, very, very slowly, the back broccoli stem leaned on top of and smothered the front broccoli. It wasn't my broccoli's fault. The problem was in my planting, I lacked the ability to visualize what my garden would look like when it grew. Because of that lack of planning, I kept my vision from being realized, and I kept some of the things that wanted to grow from thriving. Which leads me to the theme of today's service, which I am calling a Lighthouse Oasis, a live oak welcome table, which I will explain. Today is the strategic planning team's time to share with you the last almost year of their work. They started way back in 2024 with 4 months of study. They had 3 subgroups. One studied this church's history of anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multicultural work. One of the subgroups studied all of the grounds and the idea of transforming the grounds into something that could feed the entire community. And one group studied the history of this church's history. They actually took I made them read all of the search documents every time this church was looking for a minister. So instead of it being like reading a retrospective history, they were kind of core samples of where this church was. Then these groups, after they did their study, formed into one group. They held a series of cottage meetings. They spent about 2 or 3 months doing that. Some were open interest cottage meetings. Others were specific, like retired members, worship guild, staff, Black Joy Collective, LGBT folks, lead givers, online folks, things like that. In these meetings, they led you through a visualization where they asked you to picture the church in 10 years. They asked you what you smelled and what you heard and what it sounded like and what it looked like. The team held dozens of these meetings. They carefully facilitated the conversation so they could hear what you were picturing, what this church would be like in the next decade. And they took copious notes. Every facilitator of every group typed up all of the notes and loaded them into one document that totaled 71 pages. We're good so far? Okay. The team then took those 71 pages of notes and consolidated them into one list of every single thing that you asked for, prioritized only by the number of tick marks, like the number of times it was mentioned. From that document, they created a 3-page list of every single thing that you said you saw or experienced in the guided meditation, all the way from the ones that had the most comments, like, for example, a number of you want to modernize the bathrooms we have here, all the way down to the ones that only had one example, like one instance, which is hiring a chef to keep on retainer at the church. Because the consolidation of all of these 71 pages of notes was not perfect, the strategic planning team took the entire list and cross-referenced it both with their memories of the groups and with the actual notes that they took. About 2 months ago, at a Saturday retreat, they took Post-it notes with every single thing that was on that list, and they sorted them into 4 subcategories. Some things were about the building or the outside campus. That would be a different category than things that were about the nature of this church's welcoming, for example. Part 2, I will share with you what these subcategories are, but not yet. Now it's time for the offering, and I have one more announcement. If you have clothes that you wish weren't yours, we have a solution for you. There is a group, this is, actually I'm going to just do this.
Want me to tell them?
Would you tell them and introduce the offering that is being shared with the Interfaith Federation? Great. Surprise.
Thanks. So there is a local queer arts organization that is holding an inclusive clothing drive for clothing to be given away at the library on one day in November. They are hoping to collect clothes for all genders, all sizes, all ages, and open this to the public so people who need clothing have a place to go, or people who just want to try something different have a place that they can go and try different kinds of clothing, perhaps. So there's a clothing drive box back in the back hall next to my office. If you can't find it, please let me know. I'll be happy to show you where it is. And turning from that act of generosity, giving the clothing that you no longer want nor need, to the giving of a part of your monetary assets, your treasure, if you will. We are sharing our offering this month, as we do every month. Half of it goes to our church, but the other half we give away. And this month we are giving it away to, and look, there it is, to the Interfaith Federation, another one of our community partners that we have worked with for many years. They sponsor something called the Holy Grill, which gives away food several times a month in North Baton Rouge, and we go and help serve, but we also give generously to help support that work. If you are a visitor here today, please let the offering pass you by. Your presence here is gift enough. This is a spiritual practice of giving and generosity that we are, as a congregation and as individuals, growing into. And so with that, I would ask the ushers to come forward as the offering is generously given and gratefully received.
Even now, we could be happy. Even now. Breathing in, filling our bodies with right now. From the dirt below us, from our toes to our knees, hips up our spines, shoulders to earlobes, the tip top of our heads to beyond, to the stars. Breathing wide across our wingspan and to that sacred and constant silk web where we belong. Breathing deep, inhale back to great-grandmother's bosom. Exhale 7 generations of blessings that will come through our next choices. Even now, we can be present. Even now. Life is right here, still. We can anticipate harvest, be shocked by the thunderclap, the storm, laugh at the abundance of our grief, and our earnest attempt to avoid the inevitable. We are a delight. We could be another's blessing. With our brief and epic lives, where every day we are given the option of love.
As you are willing and able, and join us in singing Joy in the Morning. We'll find joy in the morning, joy in the morning, joy in the morning, in the morning we'll find joy. We'll find hope in our children, hope in our children, hope in our children, in our children we find hope. We find strength in each other, strength in each other, strength in each other, in each other we find strength. There is love all around us, love all around us, love all around us, all around us. There is love.
Let's start out part 2 with the promise of disappointment. Namely, you may feel that when you hear the progress of where the team is, but not because the team did something wrong, right? Yes? Good, okay. I'm going to share with you the beginning progress of the strategic planning team, but they're going to share much more in depth after both services. The disappointment is that they do not yet have a strategic plan for you. They do not yet have one because it is not possible yet. They are, however, as far along as any group could ever expect to be at this time. So for this part, please let go of your disappointment and because we are only on part 2 of like 10 of getting to the strategic plan. So let me give you an example, okay? Let's say the thing this church wants the most was solar panels on the roof. That's it. That is the strategic plan. The plan says we want them, but it does not articulate why. It's not necessarily hurricane resilience. It's not necessarily about saving money or about environmental sustainability. It's just because we're supposed to do it. We put in the plan that within the next 3 years we will have solar panels. You vote yes on this, you love this, you fundraise for this, and then when it's time to buy them, we find out, I don't know, and I want this to be made up, but the president bans solar panels from our country for some reason. Or we find out that Entergy charges some exorbitant amount of money if you have solar panels. Or our property insurance says you cannot put something on the roof, we will cancel your property insurance, you will be an uninsured church. All of those would be pretty good reasons not to get them. Once again, this is not a real scenario, I'm using it to illustrate something. If the strategic plan calls for solar panels and we cannot do it for whatever reason, then we have failed to do our strategic plan. If, however, we have a strategic framework under which solar panels could be an example, then our strategic plan would still work. If your vision was a church that was entirely carbon neutral, solar panels is one way to get us to that goal. If you wanted a church that was fully self-sufficient, solar panels could be an end to that goal. And if something happened where we couldn't get the solar panels, maybe there was something else we could do that was more financially stable or hurricane resistant. Instead, under the guidance of our consultant, the strategic planning team has put together a strategic framework under which your ideas will fit. Once you see the framework, once you have given your feedback on the framework, once they revamp the framework based on your feedback, then the strategic planning work begins in January. Going back to those solar panels, if one of the 4 frameworks was for a carbon neutral church, in January there would be a team of leaders put together whose whole job it was to figure out how to have a carbon neutral church. They would investigate how much solar panels would cost. They would investigate whether or not serving meat as a congregation, or whether or not we should even have a parking lot as a congregation, if that was our goal, to be totally carbon neutral. They would look into all of the costs, and then later in 2026, they would bring back the results of their team's research to the strategic planning team, and the strategic planning team will take all of the ideas from all of these sub-teams and then flesh out what it will cost and how realistic it is, and then next year, in 2026, as a part of the stewardship drive, they will do a capital campaign along with the regular pledge drive to fundraise for the ideas that you have. Does that all make sense? It's a little, they're going to have like an hour to talk to you about that, so this is just like the taste. So for today, here is the framework under which the strategic planning team has placed your vision. We spent hours throwing around different words and sentences to describe the 4 pillars of the framework, and nothing worked. We kept wordsmithing each other for hours on end. I don't know how long you have been a Unitarian Universalist, but if you have ever been in a Unitarian Universalist wordsmithing meeting, it is not fun. It is not ideal. It can go on forever because the discussion of whether this is the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge or in Baton Rouge is a fundamentally different, anyway. So at some point, right? Yeah. Yes. At some point, a member of the team suggested using metaphors instead. Now, metaphors are problematic because you can interpret them all sorts of different ways but we still thought the images were a more clear way of describing where the different ideas you had could fit. The 4 elements of your strategic framework are: the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge is a welcome table. The Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge is a lighthouse. The Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge is a live oak, and the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge is an oasis. Welcome table, lighthouse, live oak, oasis. Once all 4 of these elements had been developed, they took all of those Post-it notes and began the very fun process of saying, is this a lighthouse, or is this a live oak, or is this a welcome table, or is this an oasis? Until every single one of those Post-it notes lived in one of those 4 categories. Then the strategic planning team spent the last 2 months discussing, for example, whether or not better space utilization and more worshipful spaces around the building were the same category or a different category. And then they spent a lot of time wordsmithing and smushing all of these ideas into those subcategories that fell under the 4 categories. Then they took some of your ideas and made them into examples versus larger categories. So I'll describe the 4 categories, but please do not get focused on any one particular thing like solar panels. The next 8 months will help this church know whether these things are options and whether or not. Instead, right now, I'm going to ask you to focus on the sketch work of the process to see if it matches your vision. The church as a welcome table is about all of our work at being a radically welcoming congregation. Including in this is this church's anti-racism work, anti-oppressive work, the work we do to understand that we come from different cultures and that we need to make sure our cultures are not impeding on other people's religious experiences. The church as a lighthouse is about the ways in which this church is a beacon for you and the larger community. Examples include programming the ways the community may be a resource the church may be a resource for the community in cases of like a flood or a hurricane. This is where solar panels may show up if it's under the framework, if it's under the idea of this church being a place when there's a power outage, people could come and get access to electricity to charge their phones or whatever. The third is the church as a live oak is all about the systems of the church. How does governance work? How do we talk to each other? How do we build the infrastructure that will sustain us for growth? And the final one is the church as an oasis. This is all of the work outside to make sure its grounds can be plentiful and worshipful. It includes a playground and a food forest and places for you to feel transcendence on the grounds and places for the community to be fed. This one also includes all of the changes or potential changes to the interior of the building. It includes addressing deferred maintenance and asking the question of if we are properly utilizing our space, or if we are using the space the way we're using it because we've always used it that way. I know I just threw a lot of stuff at you. There's one other layer I want to bring into this, and that is how incredibly wild it is that we are doing strategic planning right now. I don't know about you, but I have felt frozen by the instability in this country. My family currently lives in a 2-bedroom house. We did not do the math on having 2 children when we bought the house, and they are getting old enough that they shouldn't be sharing a room soon. At some point, it would be good for each of them to have their own bedroom. But we have been reluctant to begin the process of looking into buying a new house because I don't know whether getting locked into a new mortgage would be financially crushing if, for example, the stock market collapses, or if a hurricane comes and there is no FEMA anymore to help, or if federal troops are sent to Baton Rouge, all of which seemed absurd sentences a year ago. Depending on what work you do in the next 6 months, it is likely we are going to ask you for money to help pay for your church's future strategic plan. Just think about how countercultural it is right now that we will be asking questions about building and predicting a future at at a time of so much uncertainty. And let me be more specific. These are not uncertain times due to the existential precariousness of life. The uncertainty we are in is an intentional destabilization of your life and your expectations of financial safety and physical safety. I also recognize how cacophonous a strategic plan might feel for those of you who are worried about your finances or your health or your future. It is okay for that dissonance to exist. Church is the place where we are allowed to be vulnerable and imperfect as we question what our future could or should be. Right where you're seated, let's sing this next hymn.
A black woman standing with two toddlers hanging off her hips. Her balance is perfect as she pushes her luggage with one leg. The boys curl into her shoulders, unaware of how they all slide forward. I offer her my help. Her face is serious when she says, yes. On the bus, her boys nestle into their shared seat. The driver, a white man, begins his head count. Duck, duck, goose. He asks for her ticket, says only one child is free, tells her to pay for the other or get off. It is past 2 a.m., and he threatens her with the mention of his superior. What goes through his mind as he argues with a mother juggling her children? Empty seats surround us like silent witnesses. This time, rules can't be broken. I stand up to say, one child is with me, but this young mother doesn't trust me or the difference between us. Another woman stands up and says, the child is with her. And then another woman says, the child is with her. Something beautiful is happening here, and the driver can no longer fight our unity or the energy within us.
Ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est, ubi caritas et amor.
There is a cathedral in Barcelona that is still under construction. It's been under construction for almost a century. It was designed by Anthony Gaudi, and it is huge and vibrant, and people from all over the world wait in lines for hours to see it. All of the east-facing windows are blue and green stained glass. The west-facing windows are orange and red stained glass. It's a theological thing about Eden to, I guess, hell or something. But the first time I walked in, the color was dancing all over the floor, and I was certain that these were like fancy LED projectors projecting the colors. I was pushed out of the way by a group of tourists, and I stood against the wall and I looked at that magnificent space, and I felt jealous. Unitarian Universalists are one of the richest religions in the country, but we live with the austerity that would make monks blush. I looked at that church and I wished for myself to have a church that captured the level of majesty in the world the way that cathedral did. And then fast forward to right here, where we are actually doing the hard and scary work of envisioning a future at a time when those in power want nothing more than for you to have a vision, to not have a vision for the future. Your church is asking you to consider, despite what climate change is telling you, what cable news is telling you, what social media is telling you, what even members of your family are telling you. We are asking you to cast a vision that will properly refract the light in a way that makes the beauty of this world more apparent. In a week where 2 black men can be hung in Mississippi and it be called a suicide, at a time where free speech is being threatened against college students and comedians and God knows who else that does not get media attention, at a time where people's livelihoods are being threatened for naming their truth and loving the person they love, it is countercultural for us to demand that at least this church can be something more than it is right now. I planted a persimmon tree in my yard the year my son was born. It is huge. Every year I prune that one defiant branch that is determined to grow into the electrical lines. Every year that tree gets bigger and bigger, and every year it produces no fruit. I'm thinking back to that little group of Unitarians that gathered in a house that was, and this is from our last Capitol Drive, only bearable because it was temporary. This is back in the 1950s. I want to say it again because I just want you to picture. 1950s, this group of Unitarians who founded their church to be integrated at a time where segregation was the default. They were meeting in a space that was only bearable because it was temporary. Because they had a chunk of money that they got when the city used eminent domain to take their building where they put 110 over it. And they rented a space where Jefferson runs into Government Street. No one, from what I hear, loved that space. And they had a decision. They could take that money, they could buy a building that could barely fit its current membership, or they could buy a plot of land on the outskirts of town past the airport. And that is what they chose. Then they furiously fundraised. They even asked the entire country, like every Unitarian church in the country, to send them $10 to help build that building right there. Maybe that persimmon tree is not for me and my family. Maybe I will take the leap and feel secure enough and finally have a place where both of my kids can have a bedroom. Maybe I accidentally planted a tree for another family. If I would have trusted the idea that plants grow, my broccoli would have had the space to do what it was built to do. If we are intentional and trusting and planning for growth, all of us can thrive. The power of this church is us acknowledging and thanking our ancestors. The power of this church is saying that together we can demand a world that is more just and more loving than what we currently have. This process we are engaging in is one small example of how we build the world as it could be, where people are valued for who they are, where love always transcends status quo. You are looking in the face of intentional and designed uncertainty, and you are demanding something better. You have said that today is not good enough and we need more, and we are going to build it. Let's sing. Amen.
Soon the day will arrive when we will be together, and no longer will we live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day thunderclouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there will be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Some have grain, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and our vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with new hope, not in sorrow, and a promise to make a new start. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me.
As you go out this week, know it is better that you are here. Know it is better we are here. People are afraid, and you can help ease that. Go in peace, go in love. Amen.